name is Alcides Soares. I made this film. I'm 16 and I am an orphan. My father and my mother died of AIDS. I have a younger sister who lives nearby, and I have a little brother. I don't know where he is. My dream is to find my brother. I am lucky to have vovó. She took me in after everything happened. I cook and I clean and I push her to church every day. And she gave me a place to live. It's a mile and a half to church. Some photographers from America came to Reencontro. They gave us cameras and they taught us how to take photographs of our lives. My friends took all of these pictures. I don't like to tell anyone that I'm just an AIDS orphan. People think that all AIDS orphans are HIV positive. People, they discriminate against you. Not all orphans have someone to live with, to take care of them. But that's what we all want. Some live in shacks. Some live on garbage dumps.
Você me contou que tens um irmão fora, que está contigo, já há muito que ele não lhe vejo e não sabe onde e que estado é que está. Então eu também comecei a me sentir, mas como não tenho nada a fazer, não tenho caminho que eu puder dizer que vai lá buscar a ele para vir viver conosco, porque nem sei como, está longe, está fora de que nem sabe, você seja de que não sabe onde está, não sabe se está em Zambésia, não sabe se está em Beira. Então as coisas ficou assim.
É assim, a Reencontro há de me ajudar. Estão para telefonar para tio Nando, há de me ajudar. Estão para obter uma informação através do tio Nando, para saberem onde ele está, se está em Zambésia ou está na Beira, para depois eles já de me oferecer um dinheiro para ele levar, um dinheiro suficiente para 2 pessoas à volta.
Agradecia, então, se for assim, eu também agradecia. Para estar perto dele, não é?
Thank you. So the film is actually 27 minutes, and it's been at 25 film festivals, and Alcides was just in London at the Human Rights Watch Film Festival, so it's completely changed his life, which is really gratifying for all of us who worked with him. If I told you, and he did find his brother after many months, and that's a quite compelling scene, and he was reunited with his brother after 10 years. So if I told you that there are between 14 and 20 AIDS orphans in Africa, or that there are 300,000 children, maybe 320,000 children who are getting ARVs, antiretrovirals, in Africa for the treatment of HIV/AIDS, or that there are 430,000 new infections of HIV in children every year, or if I told you there are 21 2.1 million people, children, that is, who are infected with HIV. It's hard to fathom those numbers. What does it mean 2.1 million children have HIV? What does it mean that there are 14, 15 million kids? There are 4 or 5 Los Angeleses filled with AIDS orphans, kids who won't have parents telling them good night, children who are, as Alcides said, often, not always, some live with extended families, fortunately, but there are no foster homes per se in Africa, or there are some orphanages, but there's not a system like there is in the United States. You don't see that kind of problem in the US. If I tell you all those numbers, which are the best numbers we have from UNAIDS, it's hard to fathom those numbers. It's hard to really put in our heads. Somehow we're not structured neurologically to understand what that means. I don't really know what it means that 2.1 million children have HIV or AIDS. But I do know what it means to see a story, and you just saw a short version, of one child's search for family after his parents have died of AIDS. And I can relate to that because I have my own son, or you have children, or you have nieces or nephews or cousins. You can bring your own life's template to the story you just saw. And you were moved when I told you that he found his brother. And you're moved by stories because I think neurologically our brains are structured to tell stories. That's how we keep track of our lives. If we lose the ability to tell stories, as we do if we have Alzheimer's, say, then we're in a complete state of flux. So storytelling, for me, is the power for change. And while statistics are important, so we know what we're working with, we feel in Los Angeles, where we write the show, and in New York, where we make it, that the storytelling part is what can change the world. Because if you're moved by the stories that we tell, then we know that you often tell from research we've done, you tell others about it, or you go on the internet to learn more, or you Twitter, or you follow my Twitter, or you look at my bubble tweets, or you go to the links that I send you to find out about rape in Congo. And if we keep telling these stories that move us emotionally, then there's a chance that we'll influence Congress to deal with this problem of orphans and providing ARVs. You know, as an aside, ARVs really weren't available, antiretrovirals, in Africa till 2004. So, and only, I told you, about 300 some odd thousand children are getting them, so that leaves about 1.8 million who aren't. So that is a crisis. And so by telling stories, together we can then, I think, foment change, because we can tell our congresspeople and senators, and we can talk about it, and we can get involved in many ways. And the last thing I'll say is that with new media particularly, we've been very fortunate at NBC that we can connect our viewers in all kinds of ways to take action, because you're inspired. Once you see something, we want to get you before you lose that inspiration. And so if we can get you now to the internet, then we can give you all kinds of ways to take action, from reading different books to getting into writing senators and congresspeople who are particularly interested, to even going there. So for me, that's the power of storytelling. It's really the power of change, and for me, it's the greatest gift I have, because that I have and am able to share. So I feel so fortunate.
Thank you, Neil.
Sure.
I'm just going to ask each panelist one follow-up question at this point, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. So Neil, what is it that inspires you to tell stories about global health, or the little-known stories of people from developing countries?
Well, I think there's a false view in Hollywood, particularly amongst TV executives, that Americans aren't interested in anybody but Americans. And so many people have pitched shows about Doctors Without Borders, and you haven't seen it on TV because they haven't bought those shows. So fortunately on ER and on SVU, we can tell those stories. Why? Because we're a global society. We're all connected through the internet, mobile phones. 1 out of 3 people in Congo has a mobile phone. So with that connection, there's power to talk to people and to share our stories. And I do think Americans, I mean, when I hear anecdotally about our show last week or many shows we've done, they don't know that 6 million people have been killed in Congo. They don't know what's going on, but they want to know. And so for me, that's the driving, maybe because I'm a physician, a pediatrician too, so I like kids and I care about kids' health, but I think I'm no different from almost anyone else. I don't think that, you know, we're all interested in those issues. And so I think it's incumbent on us as storytellers to share those stories. And it's pretty simple. And just because our show takes place in New York, we have found, and Mariska will tell you about some of the stories we've done, we have found ways to tell stories about the world because the world is coming here as well. So we can't let the sort of past parochial views stop us from telling global stories. And you know what else I want to say is that there's someone here tonight, John Prendergast is here, and what really helped, and he's sitting in the back, and what really helps is partnering too, because we partnered twice with John, once on a show we did about child soldiers from Uganda and the psychological issues obviously involved in what happens to them when the war has ended, and then recently last week on rape in Congo. So we look to beyond ourselves, because I don't know that material, but I want it, as Sandra said, and we look to Hollywood Health and Society for medical information to make it, and I don't know the medical answers to many things. Or there are people here who've helped us from NIDA in the past, and we've done shows on and ONDCP on alcoholism and cigarette addictions and drug abuse. So we do turn to experts, not with agendas, but who have the data so that we can make our shows as accurate as possible, because as Sandra said, so many people, 57 million people watch SVU a week. That's including the syndication, USA, and repeats. But each week, 57 million people watch our show, which we're grateful for, and we want it to be accurate. And so that's why we turn to people, particularly in DC and at major universities, for help in making sure that the stories we tell are accurate.
Let's show another clip. Would you like to see retro?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that.
Yes, handles abandoned kids.
What's happened to her is a crime. Kids only get this sick when they're not treated.
Treated for what?
HIV.
She has AIDS.
Yeah, advanced. And her parents didn't do a damn thing about it.
Want to see some hocus pocus? Check out Dr. Demento's website.
The truth about HIV.
There's no proof that HIV causes AIDS. The anti-HIV medications Big Pharma makes will kill you.
This guy is a fruitcake.
According to Hutton, AIDS is a global conspiracy funded by pharmaceutical companies to make big bucks.
And commit genocide. My parents believe the government created HIV in a lab, and the CIA spread it in the prisons to kill blacks and gays.